I'll check, give her a check.
I'll get it. Thank you.
Remind me your names? Shlomo and your mother?
Yes.
Karen?
Shlomo.
Did you hear Karen?
Karen,
From where? Was it?
Swap.
Oh, you live in Sfat. What's the last name?
Susie Cohen. Susie Cohen.
Are you the artist?
Yeah.
The one that was the Shuk?
Who's this?
Somebody from Montreal. You know all the paintings in the Shuk?
Are you serious?
Not all of them.
Really? Are you the one?
Him and Beryl.
Really?
Carl doesn't paint.
I know.
Spray paint?
Right.
That's you?
Okay.
I guess so.
Page,
Somebody has to do
page 60.
I want you to-
In the Shuk or on purpose?
No, they're not those murals, they're beautiful murals. Oh, yeah.
You're in the Shuk? We're in the open Shuk or the closed Shuk?
Both.
They walk
All
through
the
the lights
portraits.
All the portraits?
See
I
his
gotta
portrait.
get this guy's number. What's your name and number?
Michal.
Solomon.
A
You have
number?
to go through Farrell.
Okay, what's your phone?
Okay, we're starting page
Oh,
60. No, come on.
6827.
I got to start already. We're late.
There you go.
She opened up,
It's
Rabbi.
12:45. My
This
bad, I
is
didn't-
it. You should have said it. I was looking for this guy.
Nicole has an announcement. Everybody, please be on time tomorrow. Okay, and we're learning about freedom. You know, the part what we're reading in the Torah nowadays is the story of the Exodus, right? This week's parsha we already see the last 3 plagues, and Paro says, "Okay, everybody, get out of here," right? And next week's parsha, we actually do the crossing of the sea, and so we're talking about freedom. And freedom to do what? Freedom to do just anything you feel like doing. That's not really freedom. Freedom to be your true self, to manifest your highest self, to manifest that beautiful person that God dreamt about before creation, when He had you in mind before the creation. So we were learning that only one who's a servant of Hashem is truly free, because the only being in the world that is truly free is God. Hashem means the name, which means referring to God. And then we started learning about the azutik tusha, what we call holy chutzpah, to have the brazen, to be bold, to be brazen, to make the move to being toward being the holy person that you can be. And yesterday we learned about some other really good stuff. You can see it on YouTube or on Facebook. And today we're talking about chirut hadat v'simcha, the freedom of consciousness and joy. We'll have to see what he means by chirut hadat. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman of Breslov asks the following question. Why is the world so far from God? And why aren't people closer to each other? Two questions, which are really basically the same question. Right? Rabbi Nachman says, the reason that people are far from God, and they don't come closer to Him, it's because they're lacking that. How do you translate Yeshuv Hadat? It translates as literally as a settled, calm mind, right? Like anytime that you want to do something, like when you want to do one of your murals or anything like that, you have to have Yeshuv Hadat. You got to have a tranquil mind. You got to be settled, so that you can focus yourself. So people don't have Yeshuv Hadat, right? They're always running around. And they don't take the time to settle themselves. They don't have time to think. Yeshuv, the word Yeshuv, Perushol HaShevet means plain and simple to sit down. When you want to think about something deeply, you sit down. It's resting and tranquility. And that liberates, it frees your mind to think. But it's not just sitting down with your body, but rather hadat atzma, your consciousness itself, your awareness, sarich lityashev, has to sit down, right? Especially, nowadays, but we're so used to being bombarded with so much different information. Did you ever notice, if you ever look at television or even the news or whatever it is, you rarely will see an image for longer than 2 seconds, right? It's like, and it's caused a disaster in education too, because kids come to school, by the time they come to grade 1, they've watched thousands of hours of television, and they're not used to being able to focus on something that, like on the same image for more than 2 seconds. So and actually one of the first exercises that Aryeh Kaplan gives in his book on Jewish meditation, just to illustrate what meditation is about, is he says, okay, for 30 seconds, shut your eyes and try to think about nothing.
Right, yeah.
You've read that?
Yeah.
And it's the first exercise that he gives there. Try to think about nothing, right? And you'll notice that it's very difficult, right? All these ideas keep coming to your mind, right? So it appears as if the mind has a mind of its own, a spinning mind going down there. You also notice it during prayers, like all these other thoughts come into your mind. So the one needs to learn how to settle the mind, how to sit the mind down, so to speak. And the reason that meditation is so much involved with practices of breathing is because just like it seems like your thoughts seem to come involuntarily, we also breathe involuntarily, right? But if you learn to be in charge of your breathing and to be conscious of your breathing, then that helps you to learn to have your mind focused in the way that you would like it to
I
be.
actually have an issue with that.
Huh?
I try not to breathe when I'm working spray paint. I don't wear a mask sometimes and I don't breathe. So I consciously hold my breath.
Right.
It's not good because when I stop painting, I still do it. I forget to kind of breathe. I find myself not breathing.
Ah.
Like,
We're gonna have to get you oxygen cylinders
both of it.
attached to like a.
When one is very much what one is doing, I agree. One stops to breathe.
It's very, very important to learn to master your breathing. And that's a very, very important step in also mastering your thoughts. So Yeshuv Hadat means, to settle the mind. אבל אנשים לא נותנים לדעת שלהם להתיישב. People don't give their consciousness a chance to settle down. אתם יודעים מדוע? Do you know why? מפני שאם הם היו מתיישבים על כיסא ונותנים אפשרות לדעת שלהם לחשוב, because if they would actually do that, if they would sit down on a chair and give themselves the time and the opportunity to actually think, הם היו שואלים את עצמם, מה אני מרוויח מכל המרדפים העולם הזה הם שלי? What am I gaining from all these worldly pursuits that I'm running around after all the time? בשביל מה אני מתאמץ כל החיים? What is it that I'm putting all this effort, all my life I'm putting all this effort to doing this and doing that and doing that? What for? לאן אני רץ? Where am I running to? והם היו מבינים פתאום, and they would suddenly realize שהם לא מרוויחים שום דבר אמיתי מכל הדברים העולם הזהים. They would realize they're not really getting anything, they're not really gaining anything from all these worldly pursuits. And people are afraid to confront that, or to be confronted by that. Right? When you think about it, so, I got to rush. I'm buying the car. I got to rush. Not just that. I'm just, there's so many examples.
But when I see in therapy, they have like a lot of ambivalences, like they don't know what to do, so they don't want to think about it. So it's a way to get away from thinking. And if you don't do anything, you're just always.
If you're doing what everybody else is doing, so then
you're not answering any of your own questions.
Exactly.
You're not dealing with obstacles in life. You're not doing anything.
So in order to have Yeshuv, one should restrict one's busyness.
One should take time to sit. There's a meditation from the P.2. It calls it. It's about clearing the mind. Okay.
Where is it from?
From the P.2. Rebbe. It's basically, I don't remember it all by heart, but basically, like, you're doing some breathing and you focus on one thing, and other things that are interfering with that is just sort of say, Shalom Aleichem, but don't dwell on it, and focus on what you want to focus on. And like you basically enter into a different dimension of your being, where you begin to realize, well, what actually am I doing in my life? And most of the time, people are thinking, but they're not thinking about, why am I doing this? Or what is it that I'm doing? Is it really something necessary? Is this the way I really want to spend my life, and so on? So people are afraid of that question, because you might be, 21 years old and have to change everything in your life, or you might be 23, okay, or 70, whatever it is, right? And it takes some kind of a crisis situation to make people like when a person all of a sudden is stuck in a hospital, God forbid, right? That they can't do what they normally do. Then they start to think a little bit more like, okay, so what am I doing? And part of the issue is that we define ourselves not by our essence self, we define ourselves by what we do, right? And once we stop doing the things that we do, people have a crisis, so, right? There's whether the story is true or not, it's still a good story. There's a story I read years ago about these three students in the Baal Tshuva yeshiva. Baal Tshuva, Margarita, if I say a word that you don't know what it means, if I say a Hebrew word that you don't know what it means, Baal Tshuva means one who returned, who became religious. Right? Mm-hmm. So it was Rosh Chodesh, and they had a field trip. They went to visit the graves of some tzaddikim. And they had a good hour of time till, or an hour and a half to get back to their next learning session. And they decided it was a nice day, they're going to walk. And and what they were going to do was they were going to share their personal stories, what brought them back to Judaism. So the first one tells the story about how he grew up, and he's a very intellectual person and very curious, and he studied and physics and this and that, and the more he studied, the more amazed he was with how amazing the creation. Finally, one day said, "It can't be that this is by accident. There must be a creator, etc., etc." And he found his way to God. Second one tells the story about how he grew up totally not religious and went to school, got himself a master's in business administration, and he was a really top student, doing really great, and he got a job in a bank, or some big corporation, and then what happened? One day he was in the bank, and there was a holdup, and at some point, the alarm went off. The robbers got nervous. One of them fired his gun, and all of a sudden he had a bullet in his leg, in his thigh, and he had to be on his lower back. He was in traction for 6 months, lying there in the hospital, and he began to realize, my gosh, I have this beautiful life ahead of me, and I don't know what's going to be now, right? And there was this rabbi that used to drop in every so often. He didn't want to speak to any rabbis. He was anti-religious, but this rabbi kept on just coming in to say hello. And eventually took up the conversation. After all, he couldn't go anywhere, right? And he's lying there for 6 months, and bless you. And they started studying, they were discussing, and so on and so on. And eventually he realized, like we were just reading over here, that all the things that he was pursuing in life basically can vanish in one moment, and there obviously has to be something more to life, right? So now it was time for the third one to tell his story. And he says, "I'm sorry, guys, I just can't tell you my story." I said, "We're not going any further. You have to tell us your story." So he had no choice. He says, "I grew up on the other side of the tracks." It's an expression in English. In other words, I grew up in a poverty section of the city, and I was in trouble from an early age on. Even from the first year of high school, I was getting into trouble, and then by the time I was in grade 10, myself and my friends were already committing petty thefts and crimes, and then. They didn't even want to take us into the army, and we're just living the life of stealing and breaking into people's houses, etc. And one day, one of my friends said, "You know what? I have a good idea. Let's do something bigger. Like, let's do a bank. Let's rob a bank." And we said, "Okay, let's rob a bank." And we went in, and then the alarm went off. And I got nervous, and my gun went off, and I ended up in jail for a good couple of years. And the singing rabbi that would come to the prison every so often, and even though I initially hated religion, I found that my soul was responding to this, and eventually I started to study, and now I'm here in the yeshiva. And the guy with limp, if he says, "You're the guy that shot me."
Oh my God.
And he's like, he says, "God, bury me right now," And but the guy puts his arm around his shoulder. They had just arrived at the yeshiva. He says, "Come on in. It's time to open the Gemara." Okay, so the the advice is that basically don't wait until there's some kind of a crisis that makes you sit down, that forces you to sit down and think about what you're doing with your life. Do it now, right?
You do that at any age.
At any
It's very
age.
hard,
Whether
though,
you're
that's why-
younger or older.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
just have to want.
You have to want to. You have to have the guts. You have to have to ask the question: am I living the life that I really believe in, that I really want to live? Now, sometimes you can make big changes. Sometimes you can't make big changes. Sometimes you can only make small changes. But still, it's worth it.
There's a thing called motivational interviewing. Usually they use it with addiction, but it could really be used for anything. And what it does is really slow everything down to look at your life and what you want to do, what's the problems. And you know what? It's really hard to get people to do this exercise
Because
they have to,
Consequentially.
it's called motivational interviewing. You do it with alcoholics and drug addicts, but you can look it up online.
yeah.
But it shows you how motivated.
But usually,
once you do the
right.
thing, are you motivated to even change? First, you have to get to think about it, but then, would you want to change it? Could you? Can you? What?
Right.
It's also motive.
So
I learned years ago in a program, things by the yard is hard. Things by the inch is a cinch.
Okay.
And I remember that. And I did things which I find difficult to do.
You go one step at a time.
One step at a time. Sometimes we take baby steps.
Yeah.
But the point is, you go forward.
Right. So he says, we're at the last line on 60. אם בני אדם היו מתיישבים בדעתם, הם היו קולטים שב, כי אם גם כבוד והצלחה. If the people would take time to sit down and think about what they're doing, they would realize that it's not only money, but also honor and success. אינם קניינים אמיתיים. These are not
acquisitions.
These are not real acquisitions, lasting acquisitions. המשאירים את האני שלהם לנפש, their I, their being, eternally. אלא יעברו ויחלפו. These are things that are going to come and go. ואז קרוב לוודאי שהם היו מתקרבים לקדוש ברוך הוא. And it's a pretty certain thing that if people would take the time to actually think about these things. Come sit down, there's a chair here. We just need to make a bit more room. And then it's almost certain that they would actually, can you guys make a little bit more space? It's almost certain that they would get closer to God.
What does the word lanetzach mean?
Eternally. Right? So far he's answered the first question. Why aren't people closer to God? Take the time to settle their mind and think about what's really important.
Can I ask? Do you think it's possible to actually, for people to ask these questions without being put outside their comfort zone?
It's possible if they're is trying to, if they're encouraged to do it.
Yeah.
But you have to actually say, okay, for example, medicine in medicine. Western medicine doesn't do that. Okay, I had an ulcer for 8 years. That none of the medications were working. It finally came to a point where the doctor said you have to have surgery. Broke my prejudice against learning meditation. I went and I had 4 half-hour lessons in meditation, and my ulcer was gone in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Okay. I went to the doctor and I said, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" She said, "Oh no, we don't do that." Right? In other words, their way of thinking is something's wrong here. Let me give you a pill and keep running, keep going, keep doing this, keep doing that. So for a lot of people, you need something that pushes you out of your comfort zone and to be open to it. But if let's put it this way. It's not just, like, for example, the whole idea of praying every day, praying 3 times a day, and so on. It's also, what it's really about is to sort of to evaluate, where am I, and I did literally, Reb Shlomo Hirsch explains, it means to judge oneself. You're judging yourself, lehit palel. Palel means judge. Lehit palel is to judge yourself, and to ask yourself is to stick the phone down. So put it in the corner, and so that somebody doesn't trip on it. So to judge oneself from the last time that I prayed until now, which direction did I move in?
Could you share with us what you did for meditation?
What meditation I did? I just did a very simple one. The first thing I had to learn again was to breathe properly.
4 hours, did it? You did it for 4 hours?
No. I had 4 half-hour lessons.
4.5 lessons. With who?
With some people in the city, in Montreal.
Okay.
Just they didn't teach me much. They just taught me how to do.
You could do it now. Pilates.
4 half
You could learn
hours.
Pilates.
4 half
Oh,
hours.
4 half hours.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's how.
If you go to Pilates.
No, people
Pilates.
spend a lot more time learning meditation.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
did. I just did a simple meditation. First, I had to retrain myself to breathe properly, to breathe down all the way into my belly.
It's gone in 5 weeks.
And that's and then the way I did that was I would lie down and put a little book on my belly and make sure that when I inhaled, the book went up.
Right.
When I exhaled, it went down. Okay.
Mm.
And then I would just do shalom. I would visualize the words. Okay, so in a vertical fashion. So shalom, bringing it into the part of my body that was in pain, and exhaling whatever negativity there was. Shalom, right? And and once I mastered that, I could be on a bus, on a packed bus, and if I would start feeling pain, I can just do it in my mind. Okay, so
Does it work in any other part of the body besides the stomach?
Yeah,
no, it works on things that have to do with anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called visualization.
So he says like this. עכשיו הולך רבי נחמן עוד צעד. Reb Nachman takes another step and he says, דע, know that שעל ידי מראה שחורה אי אפשר להנהיג את המוח כרצונו. One of the results of מראה שחורה, what מראה שחורה is? Depression. Literally, mara, bile. Mara shchora, the black bile. But that's a physical term, but what it means is depression. Okay? And in a more poetic way, it's can be translated as painting, which is what depression is about, right? So he says when one is depressed, God forbid, you can't get your mind to think in the way you want to. And then it's difficult for a person to settle his mind. Okay, so, but you could do it anyway if you really set your mind to doing it. If you set your mind to actually meditating and practicing doing it. You see, depression is a kind of a prison, right? Depression is anger turned inwards, is one way of looking at it. And it's a kind of a prison, and this one of the attractions of depression is that don't blame me for not doing anything. I'm depressed. Right?
That's a common excuse.
Yeah. And there's a verse in Kohelet that says Kishucha amuka zona, which can translate in two ways. The prostitute is a deep pit. The other way to translate it is that the deep pit of depression is a prostitute. In other words, there's something attractive about depression. People go into depression, it's convenient, and it's not my fault. I'm depressed, right? But then when one is that way, one is locked into a particular way of thinking, and they're not free to liberate their mind. So Rabbi Nachman says, it's only when you're happy, when you're joyous, that you can lead your mind as you wish, and you can settle your mind. Joy is the world of freedom. Right? Everything functions better when you're happy. As it says, with joy you will get out from your troubles. It's with joy that you become a free person and you leave your exile. And therefore, when you bring joy to your mind, so then your mind and your consciousness are free. They and are not in a state of exile. And then you can lead your mind as you wish and settle your mind, settle your consciousness, because then your mind is free, it's not in exile. Joy.
And that's the reason why to be close to God, you need to be in joy. That's why the Shekhinah didn't rest on the tzaddikim when they were in a state of sadness. That's why the Shekhinah didn't rest on Yaakov, because he was sad about Yosef.
Oh, really?
I didn't know.
So you couldn't see.
Wow.
So I couldn't see Yosef.
You see, you learn something, and it doesn't penetrate. And at the time,
Eventually it does.
It does.
Good.
I just understood
Baruch Hashem. The Fia Baal Shem Tov, we're in the middle of 61. The Fia Chassidut, according to the teachings of Chassidut, the biggest transgression in the world is to be depressed.
Yeah.
And now the word Atzuf translates as sad, but it's not really sadness. We're talking about depression. Rabbi Nachman שואל, Reb asks, מה רע כל כך בלהיות עצוב? What's so bad about being depressed? והוא עונה, and he answers, כשאתה עצוב, אין לך שליטה על הדת שלך, because when you're depressed, you don't have control over your consciousness, over your mind. ואם אתה לא יכול ליישב את דעתך, and if you would be able to settle your mind, אתה לא יכול לחשוב באופן, ואם אתה לא יכול ליישב את דעתך, and if you can't settle your mind, אתה לא יכול לחשוב באופן ישר, you can't think in a straight, positive way. רק כשאתה שמח, only when you're happy, אתה יכול להשיג יישוב הדעת, then you have a settled mind. Now, I was sort of waiting for somebody to say, but wait a minute, aren't there these great masterpieces of literature written by depressed people?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You've heard of those guys, yeah?
You know what? Yeah, but Marshall Linehan, who created DBT, she was depressed and suicidal, but her walking, which is what she teaches in this mindfulness, all that activity created this whole psychology.
Mhm.
So obviously, I don't know if they were that depressed.
No,
When
yeah.
they were writing these amazing pieces.
That might,
That was way out of
you
their
might
depression,
you might be 100% right. But there is this thing I remember, like, in university, like, people would say, oh, you're depressed, you're going to write a good poem, you're going to do this, do that, and so on, right?
Like, yeah, how much great music has come from breakups or
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, it was embracing, like, people have the shadow side, and from the shadow, like, eventually comes to light.
Okay,
The
so
genre of the blues music.
That's true. The artists who were like psychotic.
So a lot of people, is particularly when they're depressed, that they feel the need to find some way to express themselves, right? And then when they're not, they're just happy, not doing anything particular, right?
Some people
But
are
the
not
truth
happy.
is, the truth of the matter is that the truth of the matter is that when you're besimcha, when you're in a state of joy, you function so much better, and you can do so much more. There's no question about it, So you might write a nice piece of literature, but you might have, if you weren't so depressed, you might have done something far more fantastic.
It's sometimes easier to give people advice than to follow the advice yourself.
Sometimes.
When I
How many times would you say?
when I was in
9 out of 10.
when I was in university, part of my psychology course was the French philosophe, and I wrote a paper on that. And every philosophe, Descartes and whatever
Descartes, yeah.
they were not only depressed, but they were crazy. But they wrote wonderful literature. They weren't talking about themselves. They were talking about, if you want to be, then this is what you have to do.
Yeah, so easy, right?
But they didn't follow it.
It's absolutely true. Same thing with rabbis. Same thing with marriage counselors.
It's like someone at the bottom of the pit and tell you how to climb that to tell you the route, like you just
Right.
go down and the legs are open, like
Actually, our job is
Descartes
our job is really not to give advice.
So
Actually,
I want to go back
our job is to help them get the advice for
So
themselves.
he says, Katuv, right? It says, Ki b'simcha teitzeu, right? With joy you will go out. So Amrim Kol HaRabbeim, all the Hasidic masters say, b'simcha yotzim mi'hagalut mi'ashibut, with joy you go out of your exile. אבל אתם שומעים מה אומר רבי נחמן, you hear what Reb Nachman is saying, לא מספיק להיות שמח, אתה צריך לקשור את השמחה לדעת שלך. It's not enough to be happy, you need to connect it with your... What does that mean? יש אפשרות שהשמחה תתפשט בכולי חוץ מאשר בראש שלי. It's possible to have joy spread out being except for my consciousness. Right? I can.
What's that possible?
Give me a
What was
second.
that?
Let's see. הדעת שלי יכולה עדיין להיות בעצבות בגלות. In other words, you can have joy over some kind of worldly thing that you've got or whatever it is, and you like, like you like going to parties or to concerts or this and that and so on. But if you don't connect it with your consciousness, right, it's not enough, right? Okay. So you'll still end up being in exile. Okay? ובהמשך עוד נלמד מה השמחה של המוח, של הדעת. And soon we're gonna get to the question of what is this idea of joy in your consciousness. אבל העיקר הוא, but for now the most important thing is לזכור, to remember, בן חורין, a free person, הוא זה שמושל בדעת שלו, is a person who's in control of his thinking and his consciousness. And he has the ability to settle his mind, and to think and to ask himself, what's happening with me? What is my goal? What is my purpose in life?
Before we turn the page, you said the word lehit pavel means to judge oneself.
Right.
Pavel, not the word done.
That's a synonym. Okay. Says Amir Rabbi Nachman, page 62. Kan or be'elef mekamot. He says this over here and in 1,000 other places. K'dei lashuv v'liyot sameach, to come back to being happy, to being joyous. אתה צריך קודם כל להסתכל על עצמך ולהבין. You have to first of all look at yourself and understand. אני לא באמת גרשתי. I'm not as bad as I thought.
Nor it's good, really, but we won't go into that.
Okay. דעו לכם, know that העצבות העמוקה באה מהחטא. The depth of sadness comes from transgressions. אחרי שאנחנו עושים טעויות, after we make mistakes, עמוק בתוכנו אנחנו נהיים עצובים, deep inside we become sad. אנחנו מסתכלים על עצמנו, we look at ourselves, ומתייאשים יותר ויותר, and we fall into more and more despair. מלהיות מה שפעם חלמנו להיות. And we more and more we give up on the dreams that we had about what we would achieve in life. אבל מה כאן הטעות? What's the mistake? הטעות היא שאנחנו שוכחים את הקדושה שלנו. The mistake is that we forget that we do possess holiness. That there is something holy in our being. If we would remember the depth of the good that's within us, then we would believe in our ability to do tshuva in one moment. But the problem is that we don't believe in that holiness that's within us, right? Because every time we make a mistake, we lose that confidence. We lose that self-confidence, and we think that, oh, here I go, I messed up again, and I guess I'm just no good. So what's the mistake here? Excuse me, next paragraph. Rabbi Nachman, now this thing about doing tshuva in one moment, there's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says that if a wicked person says to a woman, I am marrying you on the condition that I'm a complete tzaddik, that I'm a completely righteous person. And you know that 5 minutes ago, he was being chased by the police for robbing the bank. Is she married? Is the marriage valid or not?
Yes.
And the Gemara says, yes, it's valid because a person can turn his life around in 1 second. Okay? But
she has to marry him?
If she accepts it.
Or should you accept it even if he was
No, but I'm saying if she accepted it, but since he said Amadigamu, since
it's very possible.
it's conditional, right? So the Gemara says, is it possible? So the Gemara says, yeah. It doesn't take longer than one moment to do complete tshuva. To live with it afterwards takes more effort, but in other words, but in order for it to really be complete true tshuva, you really have to believe that there's something holy in you, that there's something that is really kadosh, and that you possess it. So, ואומר רבי נחמן, so Rabbi Nachman goes on and he says, כדי לשוב ולהאמין בקדושה שלך, in order to return and to be חייב להתבונן בעצמך ובחייך. So you have to meditate on yourself and on your life. לא יכול להיות שבכל ימי חייך לא עשית פעם אחת טובה למישהו. It's not possible that at least once in your life that you never did somebody that you never did a favor for anyone. You must have done something good. האם זו סיבה מספקת לרקוד עד סוף ימיך בכל רחובות העולם? Isn't that enough of a reason that one time in your life you did something good? Isn't that enough of a reason to keep on dancing for the rest of your life? Is it?
Yeah.
It is. But people don't evaluate it like that, right? אתם יודעים מדוע? You know why? מפני שהמעשה הבודד הזה הוא נקודת טובה, נקודה של אור. Because this one little individual good deed that you did is a point of goodness, it's a point of light. שחושפת את כל האור כדי שיש לך עמוק בפנים. That one little thing, that one nekudat tova reveals all the light that is deep within you. כמו כוכב שמאיר מרחוק, like a star that is shining from far. הוא רק נקודה של אור, it's just a point of light. אבל באמת, but as everybody knows, the truth is that little point of light up in the sky, הוא עולם שלם של אור, it's a vast world of light. פי מיליון יותר גדול מהעולם שאנחנו חיים בו. Millions of times bigger than the world that we're living in.
Which is
right? That's why his most famous teaching is about the Nekuda Tovat. Right? It's human beings are funny. We've got so much evidence in science, right? That it's not the size of something that determines the value of it, right? Because like the most powerful thing in the world is actually the smallest thing, right? But we still think like dinosaurs, right? And so you've got one nekudat tova, you've done one good thing in your life, right? So what do people say? It's nothing, right? That's nothing. What do you mean it's nothing? It means that you're thinking about it like a dinosaur. You're looking at all the big physical world around you and comparing it to one little point of light, but that means that you don't really understand what the power of one point of light is. Right? So we have to retrain the way we think, the way we look at things, and so on. There's no question about that. Okay. So that's the. We'll start over here. We'll stop over here for today. God willing, continue tomorrow. Please, if you can be here, try to be here for 12:30 because we lost like 15 minutes at the beginning. Okay. And so think about one good thing that you've done and focus on it. And Reb Nachman says that when you focus on something positive, you're going into a positive space. If you focus on something negative, you're going into a negative space. So anytime you find yourself in a negative space, breathe, think about something positive that you did. You must have done something good. You must have done something good. You must have done something good in your life at some point. Huh?
Focus on that good.
Focus on that good thing, and it puts you into a positive space.
I don't like. I just go Shev.
Shev, Shin,
Shin,
Shuv, Shin, Vav.
So Shev, it's Shev with a chet and a vav.
Yeah.
It's like to think is like when you sit down, you're automatically kind of thinking because you're not moving around and thinking, you're sitting. It's like sitting as in thinking. It's like sitting.
You one time said that there's no such thing as a bad person in the world if they've done one good thing in their life.
There's no such thing as a person who never did one good thing in his life.
Really wasn't squashing a fly.
Okay.
Even a Russia.
At some point, listen to his mother.
Yeah.
Hitler used to like animals and young children with blonde hair.
Okay. So
Interesting. We have the same response.
yeah. So okay. So just to sum it up, what we were learning today was that
That's cool.
to be free, you have to be b'simcha. You have to be joyous.
That's it, man.
Okay.
That's the deal. That was